Okay, turn on your inner virtual reality imagination and imagine that you're watching a movie. In the movie, through the viewpoint, the protagonist's point of view, you're walking down the street. Everyone in the houses start walking out of their houses and stumbling around, and they look dazed, and they look up at the sky, and they stand around and wander off all in different directions, and no one looks at each other, and everyone moves slowly, and they're not acting like zombies. They don't have any, they look healthy. Everyone is coming out of their houses like they've all suffered a mass condition of some kind. So what that is what I just described is mystery. I'm not talking about the genre mystery. I'm talking about how any kind, no matter what kind of fiction writer you are, you can utilize mystery. You can create these scenes that when the reader, viewer is first introduced to them, they don't know what's going on. It works great when they haven't the foggiest idea what's going on. And the reader-viewer is being presented with plenty of solid evidence about what is going on, but still we leave it to them to figure it out. I find that writing more mystery into my fiction is easier at the later stage. In the first stage, I'm just writing the story for my own enjoyment of it. Generally speaking, in the second stage, I'm second-guessing what is happening with the reader-viewer. I'm thinking about what their experience is like when they're reading the story, and it is that state of mind that is best for figuring out how to optimize mysterious scenes for the viewer. A mystery is basically when you know that something is happening, something is going on there is something there, but you don't know what it is. So if you're wondering, how can I make my fiction compelling? How can I make it something mysterious or spooky or these sort of things? A lot of the time it's a matter of setting it up so that you provide plenty of evidence to the reader, and but you don't fully explain what is happening. Now, there's a real balance that needs to be struck between writing clearly and writing for mystery. A lot of the times when we're telling a story, we need to convey a lot to the reader and explain a lot and make sure they understand what's happening. So it's a big part of refining our stories to make sure that we've included enough so that the reader can work with what we are giving them. So let's say I want to write a story about an explosion at a power plant, and I could start out the story with, in the offices on site, you could have workers running around, shouting in a panic, trying to do things. And now, if I didn't include that there was an explosion a few seconds earlier, it could be so confusing to the reader that they can't gather up all the information they need to figure out what is happening in time. But if I started out the story with everyone working in the offices, doing their daily routine, and there's an explosion, but I don't explain to the reader exactly, it's near, but exactly what the explosion is about, and what is it is an explosion because it's in a country at war? Is an explosion, does it mean that there'll be a major catastrophe that will affect the nearby town? I don't explain that, but I explain enough. You're giving all the information, all your fiction, your story. Think of it in terms of evidence. If everything if you're, as a storyteller, if you're providing bits and pieces of evidence along the way, as you go along, you provide enough evidence so that while the reader is reading, they can work with the evidence that you're giving them, and it's enough for them to start putting things together on their own, and it is still explained enough to where it never gets to a point where they have to kind of forget a lot of the evidence you've already given them, because you're giving them more mysterious evidence that they haven't yet figured out. It's a matter of parsing out enough evidence, not just fully explaining everything so that there is no mystery at all, but parsing out enough evidence so that they're given a few bits and pieces of essential evidence to where they can enjoy, they can become engaged with working with those and getting a sense of the 1 to 4 different possibilities of what could happen as you give them the next piece of evidence. So as writers, we have a choice of absolutely fully explaining everything as we go along, taking the reader-viewer by the hand and spelling everything out so clearly that there's never any situations of mystery, or we can offer it in such a way so that the viewer, they need to go ahead and join the effort of the story. They need to do some work on their own, and this is very pleasurable work. This is one of the things that can make fiction very engaging. When we're trying to figure out what is happening, we are more entertained as viewers. We find that story, no matter what the story is about, when we realize that when we do it subconsciously, where if things are not fully explained to us, we automatically, in our minds, we sit up in our seat and try to put the evidence together. We think of reading fiction or watching movies as a passive activity, but that isn't true. Actually, the viewers and readers are most happy. Their favorite works of fiction are when they become active participants in the story, and their minds are churning away to put the story together for themselves about what is happening. So one approach would be to go ahead and write the story and fully explain everything, and you know exactly what's going on and it's in the story. And then when you go over it to do another draft on it, consider timing. Ask yourself, now, do I need, when that individual arrives and demands the money, do I need to explain right off the bat who that individual is? Do I need to immediately explain that is the brother of the mob leader? Or can I first sort of egg the viewer-reader on by them wondering who is this, and are they being a fool to demand the money like that? Why do they have so much gall? Why are they so confident about, is it a dangerous situation for them or for the protagonist? And then seconds later, then give enough evidence to now I can see, now I can understand why, and now I know who that individual is. So it's a matter of timing, it's a matter of finessing the way you deliver your story. The most important thing about including mystery is that you, the writer, need to know what is happening. You need to have a very clear idea about why things are the way they are, and you need to have an answer, even if you don't provide the complete answer throughout the story. If one of your viewers walked up and said, well, why did that happen? You'd be able to say, well, for this reason. And it's about the integrity of the story. As humans can't help but be detectives about the fiction that they're reading, and if they get a sense that the story has not been well thought out, that there are some some connections that aren't being made, or that, like the classic example is that you have a gunfight and the protagonist has a pistol and fires off 30,000 bullets in the course of 3 scenes. Well, everyone knows that a pistol does not hold that much ammunition. So it's a matter of, even if you're not providing the complete picture of what is happening, you still need to make sure that underneath the surface of the story you have it all figured out, and that you've made it as watertight a story as you possibly can. One of the unspoken promises of storytelling is that when the reader is presented with a mystery, that eventually it will be revealed. So that is sort of like the way that stories are told, to where here's something where we're not going to show you the entire picture, and don't you want to find out what is behind that curtain? Don't you, And so that's part of the reason that the viewer will stick around to find out what it is. It's sort of like you wrap a present and you offer the present, and it's in the wanting to know what is hidden inside that is the whole scenario of good storytelling. Now, with that said, I'm not saying that by the end of the story, you don't need to have everything explained. You don't need to have everything revealed. You can have it so that the viewer, when the reader finishes reading your story, they're still satisfied and they're still wondering, so that years later they might still be talking with a friend about, well, what exactly was that about? One of my favorite directors, David Lynch, he made the movie Eraserhead. There are scenes in that movie that are incredibly mysterious, and Lynch gave us enough solid evidence in that movie, and never, by the end of the movie, they are still mysteries, and they are still satisfying to say, well, it could have been about this, or it could have been about that. And each of the conclusions that we come up with feel like solid answers, like he knows, and he has a very good understanding about what the real situation is, and then completely leaves it to the viewer. It's been my experience in my writing that in my efforts to be as clear a writer as possible, I've gone overboard at first with explaining everything. And in the first couple of drafts, things are, it's sort of like they're fully explained way before they need to be. So in the later drafts, part of the enjoyment of doing later drafts is then going back and removing parts of the story, taking out that scaffolding, allowing mystery into the storytelling. What about mysterious characters in your story? A mysterious character is where we are not completely sure how they are going to act or what they are all about, and it is not completely clear at the beginning exactly what kind of role they're going to play in the story, even though what they are doing and they are saying can be seen as very powerful evidence of who they might be or what they might be about. But there have been key features left out about exactly what they are all about. As an exercise, the next time you're reading or watching a movie, try to realize when the movie is at a situation of mystery, where there is something that you haven't found out yet that you want to find out, and pay attention to your experience as a viewer, as a reader. Pay attention to how much energy is added to your viewer experience. Does it make the story more exciting for you? And it could be a very trivial thing. The mystery does not need to be the main mystery of the story. It's just a matter of delivery, to where someone knocks on the door in the film, and we don't know yet who it is at the door. Try to consciously look not just at the film, but to what the film is doing to you, to the way that it's turning you into a detective, to the way that it is making your brain work in certain ways. Viewing is not a passive experience. When we are engaged in a work of fiction, our brains go to work in certain ways. Mystery is the stuff of life for humans, like Wallace's analogy of the fish don't know what water is because it's everywhere and it's everything. Our lives are pure mystery, and we're so accustomed to it that we don't even see it anymore. But we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. We don't know, people that we've known for years, we're never quite sure exactly the way their lives are going to go and who they're going to be for us tomorrow. And our brains are so geared towards working like detectives for our reality that we don't even consciously recognize it anymore. But our brains are happy when they're working, and so much so that we don't think of it as work at all. So when we're thinking about having a good time and being happy and enjoying fiction, we don't think of it as work, but we're happiest. We enjoy fiction the most when our brains are plugged in and wanting to figure out what is going to happen, and when our brains are working the way they have evolved to want to work, that's when we are the happiest readers and viewers of fiction. When I make these tutorials on writing and creativity, all that I ask is that you take a few minutes to check out my own fiction work at solomation.com, where you can see in episodes in video format illustrated and narrated the story Terrible Immunity that I'm working on. All episodes are posted for free. Please take the time to go check those out at solomation.com. When I see the amount of views go up for those episodes, it gets me all fired up to make more videos about writing, creativity. I really appreciate you watching these. Please remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I hope your writing goes great, and have a good day.